What's happening, you broke boys? It's the Big G here, Stonkman, joined by God. What up? God, also, in case you don't know, spelt with the little g, not the big G like me. So letting you know. What's up, everybody?
Well, I'm the top G. You're the bozo. That's how it goes.
No, I'm the big G. I'm the triple OG.
Yeah,
Get it right.
I'm the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. I am the triple OG.
Now this guy's a total bozo. I mean, this whole thing happened recently where we wanted to go to the U.S. Open, and he wasn't looking to shell out any money because he's a broke boy. Everyone knows I'm the big G, top gun, top pimp, top gangsta, and he's a broke boy.
Well, top G's they don't talk. They act. You're all talk, no action.
I guess you subscribe to the camp of the people who said all real G's move in silence like lasagna. You're in that camp.
Yeah, I came up with that phrase. I'm the inventor of that.
That's pretty funny. Anyway, no, we've just been it's been like a pretty hectic couple of weeks. I noticed that a lot of shit's been kind of popping off. A lot of people have been blowing up, and more specifically, it's been like just the month of Andrew Tate. Like he's really blown the fuck up. I heard of him. I heard of him a couple months ago. I want to say it was who was it? It was someone did a video where it was Philion. Philion goes after these like fake like alpha male guys or whatever, like the red pill guys, and he shits on them. And Philion, we kind of spoke about him a little bit last week. He's the guy that did the Board Ape Yacht Club exposed video thing, and we shared our thoughts on that. We could cover that again a little bit, maybe at a later point, but there's still a lot of shit going on with that. That's kind of been ongoing, but I digress. So Philion covered Andrew Tate. He did these videos where he was reacting to all these guys that are like these like alpha, YouTube guys or whatever, red pill guys, right? So it's been pretty funny, and I just showed him a video, and it was Andrew Tate on a plane, and it was so funny. You got to see this video. It's called like Andrew Tate takes like a shower on an airplane or something, and he went on like that Emirates plane, and it's like the $15,000 flight where you have your own little private booth thing, the door closes, and then you get to like take a shower and all on the plane and all that. So he just took a shower and he just starts like raiding the cabinets and just took everything from them. He took like a toothbrush. He took like a hairbrush, even though he's bald. Like he's just like fucking around the whole time. It gets all like steamy, so then he writes top G which is his thing. He calls himself the top G, so he wrote top G with his fingers because it was so steamy in the shower. So he goes, the next guy that comes in will go like top G, fuck, he was here, like whatever, which is pretty funny. So always makes me laugh. So in terms of like my thoughts on him, I think he's definitely a troll. I don't think he's serious about a lot of the shit he says. I think a lot of it is just entertainment. But some of the shit I do think he's serious about is like some of the stuff that he talks about pertaining to like the New World Order and like his view on money more specifically. He's like, oh, money's not real. Like money's just bullshit because of like fractional reserve banking. So he actually knows a little bit about that. And I was kind of surprised. I was like, okay, wow, this guy read a little bit online about that. So he seems to talk about that a little bit. But in terms of some of the stuff he says, I think he just goes for like, he's almost kind of like how Howard Stern was. Like he's just a shock jock. So he'll just say shit to get people riled up, and then it'll just drive traffic to his Twitch streams, which he's been doing lately with like Aiden Ross, XQC, and then the socialist Hassan Pecker. His name's Hassan Piker, but I like to say Hassan Pecker because it's funny. But yeah, he's just been like debating people and shit on stream. And I think the whole thing is it's kind of like a marketing ploy to drive people to like his two main things, which is like Hustlers University. God, you want to join Hustlers University for $50 a month and learn how to make money online?
No, I do not want to join Hustlers University. But he has a very interesting strategy with the way he does things. He doesn't make accounts, and basically, if I had to guess, what he's doing is he's buying all these bot accounts to comment on videos and streams and such to basically provide the social proof to get other people that are non bots to basically agree with him. So he's probably running like a sophisticated bot campaign to get more and more people to agree with some of his claims. But yeah, a lot of the stuff he says is not too outrageous, and then he says some stuff that is like completely outrageous and completely out of the question. And Hustlers University, it's basically just like an MLM scheme. It's like those knife selling kits, or
Cutco,
herb,
Cutco,
yeah,
yep.
Cutco, whatever the fuck you just
Or
said.
Pampered, was it Pampered Chef or whatever? That's another
Yeah,
one.
Pampered Chef, Avon, Herbalife,
Amway.
yeah, Amway, all of those like kind of you basically buy into the program, and then you make money. You don't buy into the program for like the benefits the program provides, but you buy into the program basically to sell to other people, and then you get like an affiliate commission or whatever. So like all the people in the program have an incentive to prop up his brand and make sure like he looks good to other people.
I mean, it's only $50 a month, and to be honest with you, I mean, first of all, I don't know if I trust whatever thing he's taking payments from, but for $50 a month, if you could figure out a way to get like a virtual credit card or something and just charge it for $50, or like a one-time thing, one of those like prepaid Visa gift cards or MasterCard things, I would think about it just to like try it out, and then maybe I would do a review and post it and just give my thoughts on it. Because I actually, you were there with me too. We did some shit years ago, and it's just all right. It's a funny story because we were just like laughing the whole time, and it was like really enjoyable for us. But there was someone that we used to know, and he was like super into like Tai Lopez. And Tai Lopez is like the Lamborghini knowledge in my garage guy with like the bookcases in his garage. That's how I knew he was full of shit, by the way. Who You don't keep bookcases in your garage. Like that's just not a thing. Like that you're a fucking retard. Especially because when you think about it, like it's like, okay, the guy's walking around this like giant ass house in the next video. It's like, wouldn't you just put your bookcases in like one of like the 50 rooms in the fucking house? Or like, wouldn't you just put in like the foyer or somewhere or wherever? But nonetheless, whatever. That's how I knew he was a scam. But we knew someone who was like really into Tai Lopez, and the guy like made us sit there and like watch this course that he paid for. Some of the information was like decent, but it was like pretty run of the mill shit of like, oh, create an LLC, open a business bank account, um, go do this. It was all just like random fucking NPC bullshit that like everybody knows to do, or at least you could find it on Investopedia or like LegalZoom or just somewhere like that. So that kind of made me laugh because I was just like, oh well, this is all like pretty straightforward shit. Like you need a C corp or an S corp or an LLC. Like you need liability protection. It's like what any lawyer would tell you, even if they were like a shit corporate type of lawyer, for like $100 an hour or whatever. Because like the best lawyers really are like $600 an hour and up. You could get the best lawyers in the country for like $1,000 an hour or whatever. So anyway, but it just reminded me a lot of that. And you spoke about like the affiliate marketing side of things too. He claims that there are 110,000 people in that program, which means he's making something like, what is that, 5 million a month or like 5.5 million a month gross, which I highly doubt.
I
But
mean, it's
he claims
exaggerated.
that,
It's a
yeah, of
brand new.
course it's,
Right.
yeah. How do you know? How do you know how many people there are? He could say that, and there could be like 5,000 people. Like you would never know. He also lives in a pretty cheap country, doesn't he? Live in like Romania or something like that.
Yeah, that's another thing too. If you look at countries with the most online fraud, you got Indonesia and Romania. Indonesia has like 36% of all online transactions are fraud, and like Romania is not too far behind in the percentage of online transactions that are fraud. So if you put your credit card into his site for Hustles University, and he's based out of Romania, you got a 1 in 3 chance that the transaction that your credit card is going to be stolen and sold. Basically, they basically steal your credit card information. They sell it off. So I would be very worrisome of that.
Yeah, that was like I said, one of the things about Hustlers University that was kind of like, I don't know, like I don't know. But yeah, I mean, it does make sense, right? Like if he sets it up and he sells it as like a bullshit course, let's say 10,000 people buy it, which is very possible because he's been pulling millions of views. Let's say 10,000 people buy it. He now has 10,000 credit cards. You know what I mean? Like, there's no way. Like, now he has information on the credit. Like, it's just, it seems, like there's something else going on there. But I will say this, like, I thought it was interesting how he just packed up and moved there. It's like, of all countries, he moved to fucking Romania. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Clearly, he's got something else going on. But he also kind of spoke about that a little bit. He says he owns 14 casinos, and he got in with like a family or something that owns these casinos, and like they basically let him open these locations as like franchises, and I don't know, the whole thing seems pretty sketchy to me. It's like with stake, like a lot of things with stake, like the online crypto casino, they they partner with like these other casinos. So like if you play online like live blackjack, right, and there's a dealer there, you'll notice they never have like normal names. They have like very odd names, and you could be playing at like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and it's like daytime wherever the fuck the dealer is, and you're like, okay, they're obviously not in the States, like they're probably in Europe or wherever. But then you look and you talk to these people, and they'll be like, "Oh, we're in Georgia," and you're like, "Oh shit, the country of Georgia!" Like, this is obviously a fucking scam. Like, something's going on here.
Yeah, you just gotta. I would just take the free information that he provides online. You take the free information. You take the entertainment value that you get from it, and I wouldn't put any money into the program. Like some of the stuff he says is valuable. Like he says, get different passports. That's basically a valuable thing. You don't want to be under control of one government. That's something that he said is true. Yeah, he said a couple of like good things like that, but you don't really need to be in the program to get the valuable information. I saw like the program, it teaches you about copywriting and like stock picks in crypto. Like that that's not something that would be valuable to me. I don't know about you. What am I going to do with copywriting?
Yeah, I would never use copywriting, and to be honest with you, people always kind of look at that. You know how it's like people, maybe you've met people like this, but they're like the fake entrepreneurs, like the term for them that's thrown around colloquially is entrepreneurs. They're like people who want to be entrepreneurs, but it's like a show, it's like an act, but they actually don't like do anything, they don't take any action. Um, so like some of the people I know who are entrepreneurs, like they were like, oh, copywriting is it's just all bullshit or whatever. And that's just something that everyone says to do like online. They're like, oh, you need money, do copywriting, and it's just like, okay, dude, like fuck off, like go sell Cutco knives at that point. It's just a joke. But as far as what you said, yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. Just take everything he says it at face value and just kind of look at it through the lens of like, okay, this guy, he clearly wouldn't be doing this unless there was some other motive for him to make money or some other motive for him to gain in the situation. And then there's the other thing. I don't know if you saw this one. It's called like the War Room. Did you see that?
Yeah, I did see that. Yeah. It's basically like this it's so-called like collective of people that you could go to or basically contact to help you out in any situation or something like that. And you got to pay a certain amount per month to use it or to have this net, and they have like networking events that they set up.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a whole collective of like ultra high net worth individuals, allegedly ultra high net worth individuals. I think they're probably high net worth individuals, but I don't know if I'd say they're ultra high net worth. Ultra high net worth being 50 million and up, whatever the case may be. But I think that I think that's a good thought. Excuse me. I think that's a good thought process to have people like that in your circle, or to try to at least strive to have ultra driven and ultra successful people in your orbit and people in your ear, whether that be mentors or like friends. I think that's really important. But at the same time, I don't think you should like pay to get in a situation like that, or, you know, do whatever to get in a situation like that. I think you could build up that network on your own without other people, and it'll be more genuine. And, you could kind of do that genuinely. Um, I don't think you need to pay to like join a group or pay to join a club. Now, if you're talking about like, you join the Freemasons or you join Rotary or you join whatever, and that's how you're able to meet some of those people and then start the network, I think that's a good place to start. But I don't think that's a place like, where you want to like end, if that makes sense. Like you kind of do those things so you meet people and you're introduced to people with, different circumstances. But the main thing is like you kind of use that as the bridge, and then once you cross the bridge, then it's like your relationship with the person is like outside of that as well.
Yeah, another thing too is why would you have trust in this guy when he admitted to basically running this webcam studio, and basically he admitted to it being a total scam. There's like videos of him saying, "Oh, this is a total scam. We basically take this money away from these desperate men and these fucking these slob jobs, because they're unable to get women themselves, and we take their inheritance, we take everything they got." There's videos of him saying stuff like that. So why would you trust this other program that he put out based off of his character and his morals from the previous operation in the previous studio? And I heard he takes like a 40% cut out of these women. So you have to do an investigation into his background. How is he getting these women? Romania has a huge sex trafficking problem. So how is he getting these women to comply with these requests and such?
Yeah, he actually got raided by I think it's Interpol, which is like the European, you know, crime fighting unit that kind of investigates these things. And there was some situation where he said that it was like some girl's boyfriend or whatever that kind of told the authorities, and he was based out of the U.S. And then the U.S. told Europeans, and then the Europeans told the Romanians, and then the Romanians kind of like pulled up on him, and they like confiscated all the shit, like his computers and everything, and whatever the case may be. But I think he's out on bail in that thing, and it happened pretty recently. I think it only happened like a month or two ago. So we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, you're right. You're 100% right. Like a 40% cut is a little egregious. Like typically managers will get like a 10% cut, and agents will get a 10% cut of like a contract they negotiate. At least that happens in the sports world and some other worlds in finance, particularly. But I think 40% is very egregious, and I don't think any like rational fucking person would agree to 40%. That's kind of nuts. But there are like, you talk about like the webcam shit and whatever. That business model is like kind of dead at this point. It's mostly in like OnlyFans management and stuff like that. That's where you could do really well. But I think pretty reasonably, a lot of women would agree to like 10% in a situation like that, especially if you don't have anything. And I think that 10% is like pretty kind of reasonable, but you just don't want to be like a slime ball about it. I think you could do that and be a guy, but you don't have to be like a dick about it either. I
Well,
think
the
you could
thing
be
is
pretty
too.
nice to people, and I think there's a way to be ethical about it and not kind of like, you know, make the people who pay for that stuff feel like shit, because that's not really a good thing.
Well,
Even
the
if you
point
don't
is,
agree with them, like I would never pay for anything like that. And I know, talking to you privately and stuff, and just knowing you for as long as I know you, like you wouldn't pay for anything like that either. But if that's what you want to do, that's what you want to do. Like it's your life. Like I don't really care. But if I'm in the situation where I'm making money because of that, I'm just like, okay, whatever. Like this guy's paying for it. Like who gives a shit? Money in, money out. That's business. I wouldn't really worry about why the person's doing that.
well, the thing is too. He basically put these girls through training programs where they were told to like lie and come up with these stories like, oh, that she has a sick dog and a sick grandma, and come up with stories to basically keep these men on the like these sob stories to keep these men on the webcam for longer periods of time, because it's basically $4 a minute. So he would train them on how to like delay the conversation and such.
That I did not know about. That is crazy shit. Um, that guy Tristan, his brother, I saw a podcast with both of them recently, and I think it was the Fresh and Fit podcast. Like one of his appearances on there from like November of 2021, and his brother Tristan basically said like he trained people on there that would like message or whatever in the chats, that he said that he almost had to train them to be like psychologists to talk people out of like killing themselves, kind of, or like self harm. I guess we'll call it self harm because I don't need to get fucking demonetized. But yeah, I think he said that, and he seemed very genuine in saying that. But I would not be surprised if it was in a case where he kind of said that, but the real reason he did that is because it's like, oh no, this guy's gonna die. Like we're gonna lose money from him, like that type of thing. Like I wouldn't be surprised if it was talking people out of doing something harmful just for the sake of like keeping them around and keeping them as like, you know, like a constant flow of income coming in.
Yeah, that makes sense. But the other reason may also make sense as well. So I don't know.
Yeah, and in terms of keeping people around and you know that type of thing, there's a former as a former Google data scientist that came out and he talked about this thing called Lambda. Are you familiar with this? Did you hear about this?
No.
All right, so Lambda is a part of some like Google project where basically it's built upon Google research and it's AI, right? And it's been like a quiet project for a while, but it's this like chat bot that's supposed to mimic human conversations and human interactions, and it's a neural network. So there was this Google engineer. His name is Blake Lemoine, and he's a former Google engineer, like I said. And his problem with this Lambda project is that it was like classified and no one really knew about it. It was like hush hush, right? And he says that he thinks that Lambda is sentient, which means that it's aware that it's alive and it has an understanding of like everything going on to it. So if this thing actually is sentient, then the problem is that what if it becomes sentient enough to learn enough about humanity to then decide that it needs to eradicate humanity, which is pretty much Terminator and like any sort of movie where like AI becomes sentient. And it's something that we've seen Elon Musk warn about, right? We've seen Lex Friedman warn about this, the MIT data scientist that specializes in artificial intelligence. We've seen countless examples of very smart and very wealthy people kind of warning about the dangers of artificial intelligence and how it could pose an existential threat to humanity.
Yeah, I'm more optimistic when it comes to artificial intelligence. I don't think it's going to pose such a danger to humanity. I think if anything, we're going to adapt to it and basically adapt our brains to join the artificial intelligence and become smarter as a species. It's going to be more used as a tool of that benefits us more than a tool of destruction, in my opinion.
Yeah, there was a guy on Rogan that talked about this. I wish I fucking remembered his name. I think his name was like Nick Bossman or something like that. It'll come to me at some point. But he pretty much said when asked about AI, he was like, "Well, let's think about it this way." He was like, "AI just looks at everything as binary, right? They look at everything rooted almost entirely in efficiency, and they're like, they would see that humans inherently are not efficient because like we pollute our water, we pollute destroy the environment. Um, our transit grid, I mean, really, traffic is a fucking nightmare. Our transit grid is completely unreliable, unsustainable. It's inefficient. Cars, the way they're designed, are inherently inefficient. Planes are inherently inefficient, and like all these other different things, right? So his point is that AI would see everything that we do as inherently inefficient, and it would just look to like eradicate everything that we've built, which would then obviously lead to a global catastrophe. And he makes the point of saying like his analogy is, well, when we're building a highway, do we think about an anthill that's in the way, or do we just like plow right over it and build the fucking highway? So I think that's something to think about as well.
Yeah, we probably would just plow right over it. But yeah, I mean, AI it could be used for a whole bunch of different things. I mean, if you look in the medical field, you could get rid of these doctors that are making $500,000-600,000 a year, excessive salaries. If you just create these robots and these artificial intelligence machines to get rid of these bozos that think they know everything, but meanwhile, when you go and ask for a diagnosis, they go around in circles and they can't give you any kind of diagnosis. and it's going to make things much more efficient overall. We automated. We look at toll booths. We automated away those bozos that collect, pennies and give you the change. Like we don't need those. If you don't have an Easy Pass in 2022, there's something wrong with your brain. You better get a fucking Easy Pass, or you better get you better take a picture of the license plate and send it to my house. Like there's no reason why you should have toll booth operators, truck drivers, all of these nonsense things, and we should be moving. We should be adapting to the AI, advancing our society, and solving these complex problems and making them simpler.
That's a really good point. And two things. When you bring up the toll operators, there actually was a point where I know in certain states, particularly in the northeastern region of the United States, where they actually unionized and they ended up cranking in overtime and making like over $100,000 a year to operate fucking toll booths, which is preposterous, right?
Who is getting this money?
The toll booth operators. So I'll give you a great example. I read this online. In the New York Times, this was in the early 2000s. What happened was the city had a New York City, they said this in the New York Times. New York City had a contract with the independent operators of toll booths, right? So these toll booth operating companies, somewhere in the contract, there was a loophole that allowed them to crank in excess overtime. So employees would like crank in like 80 hours a week sitting at the toll booth, making $100,000 a year.
Holy shit! You got to be kidding me.
I'm
So
not kidding. I wish I was kidding. They were just cranking in overtime. I'm dead ass. They would sit there all night. They'd sit there all fucking night. 2 o'clock in the morning. Who's going through the fucking toll? Not happening.
nobody.
Right. So you just sit there with like a fucking newspaper. You just take a nap and you get overtime.
Wow.
It's like the best gig ever. You just fucking sit there and sleep. You're sleeping at work, making money. It's a big problem. They had to clamp down and shut it down. They were like, "That's it, shut it down, shut it down." After all these people fucking cleaned them out. Yeah, this is what
Yeah,
happens.
you know what it is? It's a complete joke. Anything the government does is just totally inefficient. And then you look at the private sector and the private enterprises like Amazon. Everything they do is efficient. And they just bought a healthcare provider called One Medical for $3.9 billion, or $18 a share. And One Medical is basically this healthcare company. They have 188 offices and 767,000 members, and they basically run these telemedicine services. So what Amazon's looking to do is you buy a Prime membership, and then you could go to a doctor through Amazon, right? Then they'll give you a prescription, or they'll tell you to lose weight, and then or give you a diet. Where do you go once you get the diet? You go to Whole Foods and you buy your food, and you basically vertically integrate the whole entire supply chain. And they're gonna basically yeah, and they also, if you look back to what they did, they purchased PillPack, and so they're getting the prescriptions. They're getting if you put a fat person on a diet, they tell them where to go for Whole Foods, and they're basically taking control of the whole entire medical industry. They're basically going to monopolize the medical industry.
Yeah, Amazon, they have really interesting ideas, and they always seem to go about innovating in like a different way than other people. Um, I'm not sure if you know about this, but I think there's also a big market for it's kind of become like a big buzzword and like a buzz phrase, I should say, like biohacking. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but it's this whole principle of kind of using technology to enhance like biological life, more specifically for people. Um, and it seems that there's like a big push towards it. So like the best example of biohacking I can give you is like people who sleep with like smartwatches, and they track their sleep and they can see what type of deep sleep they get and how many hours. Because here's a big tip for people that don't know: when it comes to sleep, you don't need 8 hours of sleep. The most important part of your sleep is deep sleep. So the average person gets about 2 to 2.5 hours every night of deep sleep. And if you could get that up to like 3 or 4 hours, you'll actually wake up feeling more refreshed than someone who had like 2 hours of deep sleep and they slept for 6 hours, if you sleep for 4 and you get all deep sleep. So deep sleep is important for repairing your brain function, memory recall. People will take DNA tests, which I don't know how I feel about that, because unless I watch them fucking destroy the DNA, I wouldn't trust anyone with it. I think it could be tampered with. I think there's also invasive privacies and some other concerns there as well. But people will take DNA tests and they'll say like, oh, if you lived in whatever region, they could study your DNA. They could say, oh, well, you're predisposed to developing like diabetes. Like there's like an 85% chance you could develop diabetes if you follow whatever diet. So they could tailor diets based on your genetic material and your DNA, which is really smart because when you think about it, if someone is from, I don't know, Asia, they probably have a diet where, let's say specifically Japan, they probably have a diet where they could have a lot of seafood and they wouldn't develop mercury poisoning as quick as someone from like Italy or like Germany. So things like that come into play in terms of longevity and in terms of health. So I like that push that Amazon's making into that space.
Yeah, that makes total sense. You have to weigh the risk between the risk and benefits between privacy and giving up privacy and what it provides to you. But yeah, you
I have
talked
some
about
other
talking about.
things about Amazon I figure I should bring up if you don't mind. I'm
Okay, yeah,
curious to hear
sure.
what you think about this. So Amazon is actually going out of their way now. I mean, me and you've spoken about this extensively. We both use Amazon quite a bit, and I deal with this fucking bullshit all the time. But Amazon's finally taken a stand. They're suing Facebook groups for coordinating fake review scams and fake review spams that happen on the platform. And this is like a big fucking step because Amazon has a huge problem with fake reviews. They're finally stepping up and I like what they're doing and going after these like coordinated Facebook groups because it really is a huge problem. Like I can't tell you how many bullshit fucking products I see that get upvoted and they have like 5,000, 4.5 star reviews, and I'm like, okay, this is bullshit. Like this is not a real review. And then you get the thing in, and you're like, what the fuck is this? And it's tough to tell sometimes because the pricing is very good. It's very affordable compared to some name brand fucking thing. And then you get it in, you're like, oh, this thing fucking sucks ass. This thing's horrible. So that's a big first step that they're taking in shutting some of the shit down. And I love it. I know you do.
But yeah, fake reviews they're all prevalent throughout Amazon. It's these Chinese companies. They're buying reviews so that they can get the buy box on Amazon because the buy box is so important to have. The buy box is basically when you search for an item and then you click on it, it will say like buy now, and like most people they just hit buy now. They don't hit and there's like this small little print that will say like see 25 other options. Nobody clicks to see 25 other options. They just click the buy now box. So what these Chinese companies do is they have these bot farms and they'll just like bot these reviews using Facebook. That's why Amazon's showing Facebook. And they'll just like bot these reviews to get the buy box and to basically take over the rest of the competition and get sales. So I guess Facebook is responsible for this because they were I don't know how they had these groups or whatever, these fake accounts.
Yeah, so these groups started on Facebook. They were posting on Facebook, and Facebook was negligent in acting to kind of shut them down. So now Amazon's suing the groups and Facebook for the fake reviews, arguing that obviously it's hurting their brand reputation, it's hurting consumers, and that's sort of what the legal grounds are based in.
Eh, you know, I think Amazon, they should retract their lawsuit. Who the fuck are they to say what Facebook should do with their platform? But yeah, these bots have become prevalent all across social media, across all different platforms. Twitter's got a bot problem. Facebook's got a bot problem. These all got bot problems, and I think it's because they don't really care about the problem. They don't want to fix it. They could easily fix it by asking for a driver's license, asking for a social security number, or any kind of other identification. This problem can easily be fixed, but their revenue source and their profitability comes from advertisers, and advertisers pay for a cost per click or a CPM model. to reach
PPC, Google PPC is a great example of that.
Exactly. They want to reach the most amount of users possible. So even if they're not real users, they could tell the people, oh, we reached your product to 100,000 users, and they leave out the fact that 50,000 of them are fake users and bots and computers.
Yeah, and the last point I wanted to make about Amazon, I don't know if you heard about this, but so we mentioned that Andy Jassy took over the company in 2021. He made 6,400 times the median Amazon workers' wage of $32,855. Now, I'm okay
I love it.
with CEOs making big money, okay? Elon Musk, if you ask me, he does a good job with Tesla. He's provided a lot of value. He deserves to make a big salary. Warren Buffett, how many millionaires did Warren Buffett make, right? Let's try to think about that for a second. I don't know the exact number, but I would venture to say probably at least 10 to 15,000 people became millionaires because of Warren Buffett, right? So in those cases, those guys, they're innovative. They deserve, they're entitled to making a lot of money because they created a product that's made a lot of money and it's been commercially successful and it has real world application and use. And as a whole, it's made society more productive. So in that sense, I think, that's good. But when you look at Amazon stock, since Andy Jassy took over, Amazon's market cap lost $600 billion since this fucking bozo took over. Okay? Jeff Bezos, he's got to get back in the saddle. He's got a lot of work to do. You can't just give up. You can't just become the richest guy in the world and then go, I don't care anymore, and then give up. That's not how it works. He's got to get back to work. He's got to get rid of this bozo Jassy, okay? The stock, like I said, down $600 billion in market cap. It's absolutely terrible. The economy definitely took a downturn, but guess what? This is where, if you're Amazon, this is where you take over. This is where you run shit. And, this guy Jassy, he was there very early on. I have respect for him as one of the first employees of Amazon, but I think he's got to do a better job, and I don't know if he's the guy to lead the ship. So in terms of how much he made relative to the median employee, I think he made quite a bit, and that's very fair to say. But I think that he's got to do a better job leading the ship. We're in business to make money, not to lose money. And if you look at what happened last quarter, Amazon had a horrible quarter and they posted a loss on earnings. And rightfully so. The stock price went right down. The piece should do.
I mean, who hasn't had a terrible quarter? I think you're being, awfully naive, right? Comparing the salary of the CEO to the average employee. The salary of the CEO should obviously be greater than the average employee, who is basically putting something into a cardboard box. I could get my 4-year-old cousin to put something into a cardboard box. These people are uneducated, right? They don't require the same amount of money as Andy Jassy and the CEO. They could be replaced by robots if they keep, pushing this narrative of increased wages. They better watch what they wish for, because they get replaced by the robots. And then another point you failed to mention is, Amazon had a bad quarter. Who didn't have a fucking bad quarter? PayPal had a bad quarter. Visa had a bad. Everybody had a bad quarter.
Okay. Well, this is in March of 2022. Amazon lost $3.84 billion. Apple made $25 billion. And this is when they posted in March of 2022.
And
so we'll have to see what happens when they Apple posts next week, and I'm sure Amazon posts very soon too. My point is this: they actually post. Oh, this is good. They both post on the 28th, so we'll see. But let me tell you this: net income negative 3.84 billion last quarter, atrocious. Apple, the GOAT stock, Apple. You can't go wrong with Apple ever. Best stock ever. $25 billion in net income in March of 2022. They just shrugged off, and they had to deal with the same bullshit Amazon did, and they were profitable. They had a pretty decent quarter. It looks like profit margins were down a little bit. It was down 2.5% year over year. But you know what? Coming out of this COVID bullshit and the games that the fucking Chinese are playing with the little zero tolerance policy. Oh, shut it down, and the fucking monkeypox bullshit going on now. I think Apple will fucking persevere, and I think that they're the fucking GOAT company, and everyone else can kiss my ass. That's what I gotta say about Apple.
You know what it is? I think you're being awfully naive. Everybody loves Apple, but Tim Cook has a higher compensation package than Andy Jassy, and you're not recognizing that
Stocks up, baby. Stocks are up. That's it.
Amazon
Your
employs
business is
1.7
booming.
million people. You know what? The government employs 2.5 million. Amazon is basically a mini government, and you're not giving credit to the CEO. He's basically running the country. He's basically the president. He employs nearly as much people as the United States government does, and you think you should
And
pay this
let me
guy, right, a peanut wage, give him 30,000, and have the stress of basically having all these workers' salaries on his back, making sure the company runs smoothly, making sure Amazon generates a profit. All this stress.
Clearly he's not
on
doing
one man's
that.
brain.
Excuse me,
All this
clearly
stress, and his head is going to explode, and you want to pay him for
you're such a fucking bullshitter. You really are. You are the biggest bullshitter ever. First of all, this guy, okay, I'm going to just call it as it is. You said, oh, he's running the company, making sure the company's profitable. The company's losing money. They're not profitable right now. They've had terrible quarters the last few quarters. I just explained that the market cap is down 600 billion since this fucking bozo took over in 2021, okay? No one gives a shit about this is capitalism. We're here to make money in case you haven't realized this, okay? We're not here to hold hands and sing fucking kumbaya. This fucking asshole is going out running the company, and as far as I'm concerned, he took a fucking
Amazon
gold platter.
Losing money.
Excuse me, I'm making a point here. They had a horrible quarter. Net income was down last quarter. Okay, they showed a loss. That's a fact. And I'll tell you this. And the quarter before that wasn't all that great either. The stock, the market cap is down
You're a short-term
the
guy.
market cap is down $600 billion in the last year. Apple is also dealing with the same bullshit with rising interest rates, with the Fed playing games and playing chicken, and they're letting inflation get out of hand. The same supply constraints. Apple is dealing with the same bullshit, and they made $25 billion last quarter. And before that, guess what? They made a lot of money too. So clearly, there's one company that's very well ran, and there's another company where, seems like a nice guy, but he's got his head up his fucking ass. And as far as I'm concerned, I think Andy Jassy is doing such a good job at. I would say this: Andy Jassy is doing as good of a job as he is running Amazon as Joe Biden is running America. That's what I have to say.
Wow, that's awfully naive. Probably one of the most naive things I've heard in my life. Let's look at Amazon. Amazon has assets of $411 billion last year. They're growing at a rapid rate, over 30% compounded annual growth rate. And you're saying Andy Jassy's not doing his job. He's not expanding Amazon.
Look at 2021. Do me a favor. Look at 2021.
You're a short-term thinker. I don't worry about one quarter. I worry about long-term results.
Okay,
exponential versus linear, right?
No, you're very linear. You don't understand.
You have to understand the difference between price and value. Price is what the bozos are paying for it today because they're worried about a recession. They're worried about turmoil in the market. Value is what it's worth. Right? You have to
Amazon
deviation between price and value. And I urge everyone out there, buy Amazon.
There are 3 companies, maybe 4, 3 companies that you should own shares in them until the day you fucking drop dead. I will tell you those companies. You ready? Apple. This is until the day you drop dead. Apple, Tesla, Nvidia. Those are the only 3 in that tech space. Everyone else can go fuck themselves. That's it. Those 3. You buy those 3. You're booming. That's it. Booming. All 3 of those companies. This is what you don't understand, and this is why you need to read a little bit more. Clearly, you didn't study Warren Buffett, the best investor of all time. All 3 of those companies have moats. iOS is proprietary.
My brain
App Store proprietary. Tesla's autopilot integration proprietary. They're going to set up an insurance arm. I bet you didn't know that. They're going to be selling insurance to all the bozos with the autopilot. That's another $1 trillion business right there. And then you get into NVIDIA. NVIDIA has 37 of the top 50 best GPUs on the market. They're the very best. And quite frankly, there's no one even close. I have an AMD. I have a device that's powered by an AMD Ryzen 5. It's a decent setup. It's not the best. NVIDIA's better. The 4000 series is going to come out. And quite frankly, Intel doesn't stand a chance. Intel is for the the bozos that they like their little 2-core computers, and they think, oh my god, this is amazing, whatever. They're like fucking boomer motherfuckers. Nvidia's for the kings, okay? This is another thing you don't understand. You're not a tech guy. You're a very linear thinker. I'm an exponential thinker, okay? Do you
You're
know that
burying yourself
every do you
more
know
and more
that
in the hole.
every do you know that every single car since the year 1995 has a computer in it, and the computer is powered by a GPU? Did you know that?
Oh, really? Oh,
Yes, and let me explain this to you.
I had no
Nvidia has
idea.
Nvidia has struck strategic partnerships with Mercedes-Benz, Toyota, and one of the most important ones that you probably don't know about, the Volkswagen Group, because they're the largest automotive group in Europe.
Wow. Oh my
And
God,
these
I
are
did not
important
know
and
that.
these are important deals that they struck, because this is going to allow them to build out their infrastructure and their customer base. And once everything's kind of ramped back up and there aren't as many supply chain issues, they're going to be able to sell to them. There's also going to be crypto demand as well, which will increase the resale value of these products, which will allow Nvidia to raise prices at the retail level. That these are all things that are important. And the most important thing is they have a distinct competitive advantage over their competition. Nvidia, to me, there's no doubt in my fucking mind that they can't be a $2 or $3 trillion company when it's all said and done. There's no doubt in my mind. There's no doubt. And
Okay.
AMD is a good company. They're a good play, but it's either you buy silver or you buy gold. And I don't know about you, but I buy the gold. That's it.
Oh, okay. I think you're failing to realize the geopolitical risk between China and Taiwan. And you're failing to take that into account
I
with
do.
the
That's why
company
my
such as
fourth
NVIDIA.
company, excuse me, I do. That's why my fourth
Uh,
company was Taiwan Semiconductors, but I decided to leave them off the list.
okay. Do you know
And the
NVIDIA
other thing is,
is based in Taiwan? Are you aware of
okay,
that?
and here's the other thing I want to make clear. Do you
Yes
know
or no?
that I'm very well aware? Do you know that Nancy Pelosi bought call options on Nvidia? And do you know that right now China and the US are negotiating a deal for semiconductor production and bringing
I
more
do.
of them over to the US? Do you know that?
I do know that, but I don't think the money's going to go to NVIDIA.
Where is it going?
It's going to AMD.
I think you're wrong. I think you need to read a book, and I think you need a very basic education. Maybe after this, I could teach you about how geopolitical endeavors work and how corruption works and how lobbying works. And you have to do what we like to call follow the money. And if you follow the
Well,
money, you bring. I brought up Pelosi. This is your buddy, Nancy Pelosi. I know you're a big Paul Pelosi guy. The DUI. He went out and he buys all these call options, big options guy, right? And you know, the whole thing is like they bought call options on Nvidia, and now they've got this bill that's going to pass the House. It's definitely going to pass the Senate, and it's going to provide aid to China in exchange for semiconductor materials. And in the case of Nvidia, it will help quite a bit with production of GPUs. So
correct. But you know what I'm saying? I wouldn't buy NVIDIA. I would buy Apple. I would buy Google. I would buy Tesla over NVIDIA. Apple is actually a company that they care about you. They care about your privacy. They look after you, and they're coming up with a new solution to stop spyware. And you know we've seen spyware become prevalent on phones over the past decade or so with these companies like NSO Group, based out of Israel. And the NSO Group is a company. They basically look at like any kind of vulnerabilities or anything like that in Apple and Android phones, and then they package together these deals and they sell it off to foreign actors and countries that are in line with Israel. And it's
yeah, I
supposed to
think
be
that
used.
you've been watching a little too much of the
No, this is
Jason
all.
Bourne
This is all.
films.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. This is all alleged. But
Well, this is all like Jason Bourne films, right? Like this isn't
yeah, yeah,
reality.
yeah, 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 yeah. Not reality,
Yeah.
but it was supposed to be used to catch like terrorists and drug traffickers and like you know these child people, these people that like the children. But now it's being packaged up and it's being used to control these journalists and being controlled to you know control these journalists and such. And what Apple's doing is they're coming up with this system where if they see that your phone is infected by a foreign government, the keyword is foreign government. It wouldn't be for domestic government. It would be for foreign government. I want to stress that it'd be for foreign government. Keyword there is foreign. That they would send you a notification via text and an iMessage to notify you of this threat. And we've seen this with the ISI. You got to worry about the ISI and this lockdown mode. It's basically when you enable the lockdown mode, any link that's sent to you in iMessage, you can't click on it. Like no links will come through on iMessage, and it blocks FaceTime calls from anybody that hasn't previously FaceTimed you before, and only websites that you approve can you visit. So it would stop any kind of like JavaScript or DNS poisoning attack.
Okay, can I explain something to you that maybe you don't know about?
Sure.
And this is all alleged, of course. So what you're explaining, this lockdown, is this? I mean, from what you're saying, is this basically what Apple's doing? They're just kind of stopping like phishing and like link sending or whatever, and you clicking on it. Is that really what it is?
Right. They're stopping smishing attacks.
Okay, so I will tell you this. So what you're describing is a solution to what is allegedly, purportedly Pegasus 1. Pegasus 1 is, some would say, in a vacuum, what Jeff Bezos fell victim to, where his phone was hacked and they got into it, and the National Enquirer blackmailed him and all this other bullshit that, it was a link that MBS sent him and got it and used to get into his phone. Pegasus 2, and this is all, like I said, in a vacuum, of course. Pegasus 2 is you can get into anyone's phone as long as you have their phone number. They don't even need to click anything. That's what Pegasus 2 is. So what you're explaining would purportedly stop Pegasus 1.
It blocks calls.
That doesn't matter. As long as you have someone's phone number, you could use Pegasus 2 to get into it. You don't even have to send them a link to get in.
And how is that?
I have no idea. If I knew how they did that, don't you think I'd work on a solution and sell it?
I don't know. I think this. I don't know. I think Apple would come up with a solution to protect against these foreign governments.
Don't you remember what happened in the case of San Bernardino? Do you remember that? No,
I do not.
Okay, so in the case of San Bernardino, there was an attack. Let's call it what it is. There was an attack, and authorities wanted access to the gentleman's cell phone who perpetrated the attack. So the authorities went to Apple, and Apple refused to crack it. If you remember this. So the authorities go to Apple and they say, "Hey, can you crack this?" Apple says, "Yes, we can." No, we will not.
That was all Truman show. That was all for show. That's a Truman show.
And then what happens is the feds crack it on their own.
They crack, or Apple cracks
very
it
simple.
They
hired other people to crack it, and they cracked it, and then that was it.
Or Apple cracked it, and they play the Truman Show where they say, "Oh, we can't crack it," and then they go behind the scenes and crack it. I mean, you're like the puppet.
That actually makes a lot of sense. Like Apple cracks it, but they play it off to the public like, "Oh no, we would never do that to our customers," or whatever, right? That's actually an interesting PR spin.
Exactly. And an update too. Remember the British Army, the Twitter account was hacked. Remember that?
Yes, I remember you brought that up. I do.
It was discovered by the cybersecurity firm Satonic. It was North Korea behind the attack.
That makes a lot of sense. That's what I was saying. I remember I called it. I called that when I said, "Hey, I think it's a foreign entity." Remember?
Yeah.
I think I also might have said North Korea in a direct reference there as well. I
Oh, I
said,
don't know
"Oh, it
about
could be
that.
someone like North Korea."
I don't
Yeah,
know
I
if you
think you
said
got to
that.
check the tape on that. I think I've made that abundantly clear.
I mean, it would be if that's correct, it would be one of the first times you were ever right.
I don't think that's true. I think every episode I'm right about 95% of the time. So,
Yeah, you got no sauce. You got no
oh,
sauce.
no sauce. Yeah, you want to talk about sauce? I got all the sauce. You have none. So TikTok, there's been this big TikTok trend going around, and basically these kids, right? TikTok's kids. Like, let's be real. So they're using and buying this pink sauce online, and they're like, "Look at my fucking pink sauce. I'm gonna dip my fucking chicken fingers in here and eat it." Right? So this pink sauce is being sold, and it's being sold without an expiration date. And do you know what the problem is? It contains eggs, and eggs have an expiration date, folks. So if you see this and you know people who are asking about, "Oh, let me get my pink sauce," or whatever, or they think it's cool, do not buy it because it has not been approved or signed off on or regulated by the FDA, number one. And there are ingredients in there that will go bad. So there are actually people who are buying the pink sauce and using it, and they're doing this like pink sauce challenge or whatever the fuck it's called, and they're getting sick. And it's like, well, no shit, you're getting sick. You're eating something with like expired eggs in it. And by the way, this is nothing new. Maybe you remember this, God, but there were times where like this was years ago, like maybe over a decade ago. Heinz did this with the ketchup. Remember, they had the green ketchup and the blue ketchup and all these different colors. They literally did this, and it was on like a regulated level. But now it's become like trendy, so people are talking about it. It's like, bro, we did all this shit. You know, it's fucking dumb.
What's the purpose of the pink sauce? What do you want to support? What is it supporting homosexuality? What's the purpose of it?
Oh, there's no reason for it. It just looks cool.
I don't know any man that said pink sauce looks cool.
Well,
What world are we living in now? These men are
I'm
very
just
weak.
saying I'm not I don't think it looks cool. That's not
Oh man,
you're conflating my point. I'm saying I prefaced the whole conversation in saying that TikTok is mostly younger people. I said kids, and I use that term colloquially. I think it's pretty much, anywhere from like 10-year-olds to like 16 or 17-year-olds, whatever, teenagers. And I think that they think it's cool, so they do it. And that's all it is. That's how these internet trends start, right? Remember the Tide Pod challenge? People thought that was cool, so they did it, and then they
well,
got
those are
sick.
just
It's like,
idiots.
oh
They
Jesus.
fucking put bleach in their mouth. They're idiots. Those are just bozos.
Yeah,
But
there
you
was
put this.
another challenge I saw called the Drink Bleach Challenge, and I'm like, oh my God. And I saw a guy on
You,
YouTube do it, and I'm like, oh Jesus Christ, like you're gonna need your stomach pumped, my friend. That's pretty bad. He took like a shot glass and he poured bleach in there and he drank it. I'm like, what the fuck? And he didn't get any views either. He only had like, I don't know, 10,000 views, which is pretty pathetic for putting yourself in harm's risk like that and like clearly doing something that is a part of a viral challenge where those videos are pulling mad views anyway. So 10,000 views for drinking
you know
bleach,
what it
not
is,
worth
right?
it.
They should serve this. They should serve this like pink sauce. Anybody who eats like vegan meat or like this, and they call it meat. Anybody who eats that vegan shit, they should be forced to not use buffalo sauce. They should be forced to use the pink sauce. If you're a vegan, right? We don't want you using the original sauce. You have to go to the pink sauce.
Yep, 100%. And these people who use the pink sauce, I'd actually argue that they have major mental health problems. And Trainwreck's
Oh,
TV
I would agree
and
because
Trainwreck's TV has been, he calls himself Trainwreck. He's been talking a lot about these people who have mental health problems, and he made some good points about it. He said that he's setting up an escrow account where he's going to be able to pay for sessions for his fans, which is really cool. So he kind of announced this pretty recently. He's going to be able to pay for over like 12,000 therapy sessions for fans, which is pretty cool. And he's working with other streamers so that they could set it up to where they each kind of have their own little escrow account for their own community, which is so dope too. Because he also made a point to say that even if you're like not a part of his community, you would be able to tap into his. So I think that's really cool, but hopefully it won't get abused because this is something that could go a long way, especially for someone in his position that he's making a ton of money and he's kind of looking at things differently, and his perspective is that he wants to be able to help people and to make like a meaningful impact.
Yeah, I think whoever invented this pink sauce, they should be thrown in jail because it's the most retarded thing I ever seen in my life. Who the fuck cares about? I gotta make my sauce pink. I make my sauce pink. I don't know who even comes up with these ideas.
The sauce is the boss. And on that note, thanks again for tuning in. Thanks again for sticking by. It's time that we say goodbye.
Go buy some fucking sauce. The fuck out of here.